Can you dive into what it means to, being a liability and an asset? Dive into that for us.
Yeah, for sure. So when I think about my journey and different jobs I've been on in my 34 years and being laid off at times or being the one that stuck around and then finally being the one making those decisions of who stays and who doesn't, it really came crystal clear that it's not that I want to simplify or minimize people to being transactional, but it's really as a leader in any industry, it's our job to recognize who's bringing value to our project, to our team, and who's not. Who's the person creating the small leak or the drip that takes away from what we're trying to accomplish. And sometimes we don't know that we're that person. We can look at people and criticize them and then wonder why we're always the one that is excused early, why we're not the one that is being identified as a lead for a particular project. And maybe we're not necessarily being removed from the company, but we're not finding ourselves in a position where we feel like, hey, I got this skill set and I know this, I know more than this person. Why am I not the one being selected? And many times it's that we don't want to look in the mirror. We don't want to recognize that there are some flaws or some areas of growth that we haven't identified yet as problems. And because we haven't, we continue to stay in that mode of being that liability in some degree to that particular employer or team. And so some of it becomes down to recognizing, having that ability to become self-aware. We have a saying, you hear, you don't know what you don't know. And I want to really shift that mind thinking and we need to know what we don't know. We need to begin to understand the things that we don't know. We need to become aware so that we can do the work to become aware and become valuable or become more of that asset. So we're walking blindly in our careers and looking for these different goals we have of achievement, but we don't see ourselves doing those things that would help our employer to be better and make more money or to be safer. Then we really are a liability. We're not really that person yet as brings that full set of value to the company. Again, it doesn't mean you're losing your job, but it may mean where you're going to end up 5 years later, and then you find yourself in this circle and you're wondering why you're always the one not being brought to that table. And many times it's easier to criticize and blame and point a finger, but it's much harder to look in the mirror and say, what can I do differently? And that is what I had to do years ago, and I explain that in my book, in regards to being surrounded by people that intimidated me, being the youngest person on a crew all the time, because I got in the trade at 19 years old, and it was a joke. Henry's the kid, right? And so I had to come to terms with the things that I didn't know, or why people would see me more as a liability versus an asset. I had to take some initiative. I had to do some internal work and bring some confidence and understand those things, and then actually do that, manifest it and show up in that way where people recognize and said, I see I have a leader on my hands. In other words, an asset. And from that, the doors opened for me to really begin to develop, to really hone in on what was important, and to continue to bring that value, and to be very keen and listening to the things that are being said and not said, and where I feel like, what contribution can I make? And that's what's most important, is that I don't have to be like somebody else. I just got to bring the best version of myself and believe that's enough. And evolve and grow from there, because you're going to always be learning. You're always going to have an opportunity to get more and to get better at whatever it is. But at least at a certain stage that here's what's important to my team. I'm going to focus on bringing that, and then shut up, right? I don't need to add anything extra, and then, because that can distort everything you've done when you don't know when to kind of, okay, you did what you're supposed to do. Now stop and allow that to kind of marinate with the team. But recognizing that is always going to be something people are looking at. Is this person a liability, or are they an asset? Because we know we don't need liabilities. The risk. And so find yourself at where that is and how you fit into that, and begin to do the work of becoming an asset by understanding what your team needs.